You are tuned in to the Week in Review, presented by the Prosper Group, where the right turns to win online.
Join us each week as we take a look at what is happening in digital advocacy and politics with a right of center focus.
All right, it's been another great week. Welcome back to the Prosper Group Week in Review podcast. Each week, we cover politics and digital from right of center for campaign professionals, political insiders, elected officials, and candidates for office. From the Prosper Group, I'm your weekly host, Dan Huber. On today's show, we'll discuss setting digital goals, establishing a digital record for you or your campaign's movement, and weekly social tracking using social listening from the Prosper Group. We're going to start with our weekly digital tip. Last week, we talked about the importance of cookies for ads and analytics, and this week, we're going to really focus on setting digital goals. It's the beginning of Q4. We're heading into an election year, a federal election year. So you really should be setting your goals for your organization in all aspects. And as always, digital is an important part of your campaign. And really, it is a big piece of your campaign itself, but you should have specific goals. So you want to avoid vanity goals. You want to avoid things, for example, Facebook followers, Twitter likes. Shoot for concrete goals, right size them to your campaign. One example of this would be growing your house file by, say, 20%. The goal needs to be correct for your campaign, the size of your campaign, your digital resources, but really you need to have something that's specific. Maybe that's 1,000, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 10,000. It really depends on you and your campaign. Maybe you want to get to 5,000 text message subscribers. Continue to build that house file, not just from email, but for text messages. Maybe your goal should be raising X amount of dollars online. Could be 100,000, could be 10,000, could be 50,000. Again, really make sure you right size these to your campaign. Or your goal could be filling 250 volunteer shifts. It's all going to depend on where your campaign is, where your cycle is. If you're currently running for a legislative office in Virginia, you're really focused on kind of that last part of your campaign. However, going back to the federal races in particular, and even states that have statewide elections coming up in 2022, use Q4 to get ready for election year. It's very common for campaigns to test their strengths and their weaknesses, and you want to do the same thing with digital. Digital should be starting earlier than, for example, your ground campaign. So whatever your field goals are, you usually want to test those going into election day. We do super Saturdays. We do those sort of things that allow us to really kick the tires on our ability to mobilize on the phones, on our ability to mobilize on door knocking, block walking, whatever you call it in your vicinity. You want to test out your digital strengths, both to improve your campaign overall, but to make sure that you have the capabilities you need to continue to grow your campaign and be successful. Making those or getting online donations, growing your house file, growing your text subscribers. These things are really concrete, tangible things that will show value now, but also show value between now, the coming election, and elections after that. So really focus on setting goals for your campaign. For the second segment of the show today, we're going to talk about setting the digital record. This is something you want to do as a candidate, a campaign, or objective. And you want to make sure that you're establishing your record digitally before you have to set it straight in retrospect. So establish a timeline, create that sort of online reputation that will provide value for you over time. We know that nothing gets deleted from the internet. And in politics, we can define ourselves or let our opponents define us. Essentially, this is what businesses call reputation management. We all know of people who've been hurt by poor digital decisions in the past, We see entertainers who lose roles or opportunities, athletes who lose jobs, politicians who lose campaigns because of things they've said in the past, that they've tweeted about, that they've posted on social media. You really want to avoid that. But just as a negative track record can hurt your reputation, a positive record can really add value and legitimacy to you over time. So take time and think about your core beliefs. What do you stand for? Could be something like federalism, right to life, free markets, and really start establishing a record online behind what you stand for, what's core to you, and what would be core to your campaigns moving forward. This could be writing letters to the editor, providing commentary or opinion. You could create blog or social posts that really continue to support what you stand for, what your core beliefs are, and what you would want to share as you continue to run for office, represent people, and really be proactive as you go about things. For elected officials, you have your voting record. That's going to be online in most states and most places these days. But you also want to develop grassroots support. You could get testimonials with letters to the editors, online activists who are supporting you and talking about what it is about you and your belief systems that they support. You may have a personal website and you could really share where you stand on important issues or values on those websites. But really, you want to make sure that you're staking out who you are, what you stand for, and really establish that over time so that you can create a record that can't be tarnished by your opponent. For the final segment of our show today, we're going to provide our weekly social listening update. Every weekday, the Prosper Group sends out the AM Rundown, which is powered by social listening from the Prosper Group. It's packed daily with a social summary, social trends in politics, and a digital best practice. Let's get started and look at the topics that we've been following. There's three really sticky topics that we've followed for several weeks now. The first being the filibuster. The filibuster topic continues to be prevalent within the online conversation. It's up 9% this past week, about 207,000 tweets discussing filibuster. Still very substantial. Next up is the border crisis. Actually dropped significantly this week. We're down 56% this past week. And we've been following gas prices. I think as fall sets in, we can expect this to somewhat drop off a bit. I think partially because of just what people are focused on, and demand seems to go down this time of year traditionally. So for the week ending September 27th, the average price of gas in the United States came down 0.9 cents to $3.17 a gallon. And the conversation this week dropped 41%. So we definitely see that coming down a bit. So we're going to change the page from kind of those sticky topics we've been following for several weeks to more current events. And there's two that we've followed for over a week now that are really pertinent. One being the debt ceiling. That conversation's gone up 44% this week, pushing 370,000 tweets. It's pretty significant, and I think it's going to be something we'll follow for at least the coming week, as that conversation is going to continue to, be a focus on Capitol Hill. Additionally, the infrastructure bill, which we've been following, is up 283% this week. That's after it was down 1% last week. And really, this is really taking to a head because this past week, the deadline that was set in the House by Nancy Pelosi for the House to vote on the legislation came and passed. So there's a conversation that's continuing to go on between the progressive, super liberal wing of the Democratic Party and the more moderate centrist wing of the Democratic Party. And this infrastructure bill is really at the cross section of that. So we're going to continue to watch that closely and really see what happens there. And with seeing what happens there, please check back every week for tracking and analysis of the social conversations around the important topics of the day. If you want to sign up to receive the AM Rundown, go to prospergroupcorp.com/AM Rundown. You'll have the opportunity to sign up there and get our daily updates. They come out every morning at 7:30 a.m., so we'd love to have you sign up. We'd like to thank you for listening today. The Prosper Group Week in Review is produced and published every Friday. Subscribe, enjoy your weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week.
You can find our Prosper Group Week in Review podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.
If you like the show, please subscribe and share.